Hey friends, welcome to our office hour stream. My name is Sohan Maheshwar. I do DevRel at AuthZed, streaming to you from a very cold and windy day in Amsterdam. And yeah, today we're going to be talking all things front end and UI with Alec. Alec, first time at office hours. Welcome to the stream.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Where are you streaming from, Alec?
I'm in also a little bit chilly, Brooklyn, New York.
All right. Yeah. As you can see, wearing like 3 layers because it's like super windy. Anyway, yeah, thanks folks for joining in. Today we are going to be discussing a bunch of front-end specific changes that we made. Recently, we shifted the UI on one of our products, which is AuthZed Dedicated. And Alec here was responsible for most of those changes. So we're going to do a deep dive into why we made those changes and, how we made those changes and also, what came out of it. Alec, maybe let's start with talking a little bit about AuthZed Dedicated. If you can give us, like a quick context of what it is and how it looks like.
Sure. So at AuthZed, our primary project is SpiceDB, which is an authorizations database, and that's open source. It's a single Go binary that you can run. It's really easy to deploy. The advantages that you get from it are deploying it in a clustered environment. So we have an open source SpiceDB operator as well, which runs on Kubernetes. Our team is extremely experienced in running applications on Kubernetes. We understand the values, and we have written and open sourced an operator that allows you to run it in your own environment. AuthZed Dedicated is our extremely opinionated enterprise level platform as a service that allows you to deploy SpiceDB in your cloud account with additional enterprise features that are not as useful for open source, but enterprises really need them. And so you can pay us and we act as the SRE and build in all these extra features. So with that is included a management console as well. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So I just pasted the link for the AuthZed Dedicated, the product page, basically, which also talks about how AuthZed Dedicated is designed to, survive outages that might happen in like cloud environments because it's deployed to multiple regions. And also, as an enterprise, you typically don't want to suffer from like noisy neighbor problems. So you have instances that are reserved and isolated as well. So check that out. As Alec mentioned, we are going to talk a little bit about the UI itself, right? So Alec, maybe we can start with showing how the UI looks and, start from there. And as Alec brings that up, folks, let us know where you're viewing this from. Always nice to hear from our audience and viewers as well. Yeah.
Yeah. 1 second to pull it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, while Alec pulls that up, again, this is the product page for AuthZed Dedicated. If you want to check it out and read a little more about what some of the enterprise offerings are. If you're interested in trying it out or, getting a sneak peek of how AuthZed Dedicated looks like, hit the schedule a call button on the product page and yeah, we'll get in touch with you.
All right, give me 1 second. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is AuthZed Dedicated. This is our legacy UI. This is what the product looked like for a long time. So what we're looking at right now is we call it permission systems. It's essentially a enterprise version of SpiceDB. And this one's called Thumper. We like to use a lot of Dune code names at our company. So if you've seen the movie, Thumper is our load test tool. So you can see this. It's pretty basic. Essentially, it's a UI on top of our permissions database. So it gives you all the things that you would normally expect, like some latency charts here, more metrics, and then you can configure access management. You can deploy different clusters in different regions, and they all coordinate together. SpiceDB is a cloud-native distributed database. It works across multiple regions. regions, and you can add clusters for different regions. You have low latency workloads close to where your application databases are, your applications are. So all these normal kind of settings that you have here. You can see, obviously, our team initially started with a very back-end focused product. So we just, to get a UI kind of shipped to customers as quickly as possible, they leaned heavily on Material UI, which is been a tried and tested UI library framework. A lot of out-of-the-box components that you can quickly scaffold like a prototype UI out of. So a lot of Google products look like this, and a lot of Android apps use this design system. So we're gonna switch over to.
Alec, just quick. Your audio seems to be going in and out a little bit. Some mic setting, perhaps.
Okay, I can try to bring my mic closer.
Yeah, a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah. Tanner's here watching the stream. Hey, Tanner. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you for the audio help. Yeah. It's my first time on radio. Okay, so yeah, we had an opportunity recently with growing our team and growing our product and our maturity to sort of take our UI to the next level for our customers. So we called it a UI refresh, the new coat of paint, and sort of like a, spring cleaning or what you would do. So it's kind of a meme in front end world to like rewrite your UI every 2 years with the new framework or libraries. And while that is like, obviously there's a reason that there's a meme, there's actually some pretty good reasons for us to refresh our UI at this point. So we wanted to add a lot more features into our UI, and the existing implementation kind of made that a little difficult, especially adding things like multi-tenancy. The previous UI really assumed that there was only one user, and that works for a prototype, but when you want to have a cloud SaaS product, you really need to bake that into the underlying model of the UI. So reworking the existing UI to support that would have been a lot of work. We wanted to add a lot more settings and knobs. You could see the existing legacy UI was pretty basic, and it would have been a decent amount of work to modify the existing UI framework to support those. And all of the other PLG product-led growth features that you see in products like Supabase or Vercel, which is a lot of user exploring the product and not needing to like dive into docs in order to learn new things that they can do with the product. And all of those things are sort of supported with a greenfield project. We also really wanted to support a new design language, move away from Material UI, which is, like I said, it's really good for prototyping, but having your own design language as a company really kind of symbolizes having more maturity. And our product is maturing in a way that we want the UI we want people to use the UI and see that it's a mature product. It's a communication mechanism. And our company brand is evolving as well, and we want our UI to match that. The Material UI design, if you look at our website, doesn't really match what the branding we use on our website. Do I still sound okay?
Oh yeah, you sound perfect. It sounds
perfect.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, you just really have to have the mic right in front of you. And then another major reason why we chose now to rewrite our UI was that we have been growing as a company, and we have more people now to actually spend dedicated time working on it, as opposed to when it was just the three founders building the database and doing all of the different pieces. Now we have more human resources to work on a front end. full time.
Yeah, I think when there's online discourse about switching to like the latest and greatest framework and stuff, a lot of these reasons actually don't get discussed enough, right? Which is things like having a consistent design language, having like a visual identity and a brand. Those things sort of get relegated to discussions about the design itself and not about like front end and engineering and all of that. So I think from like an AuthZed point of view, I think it's cool that we even had that process and that discussion about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of startups, including our customers, that try to build for like 10 times their current size, or they're looking forward to the future. They want to be able to choose technologies that are going to support them for 10x their growth, and being able to start from a greenfield and learn lessons from the first system that you build. It's like called a second system syndrome or something. Allows not only it allows our team to grow with the UI as well, as opposed to having to carry the baggage of a previous implementation.
Mm.
So it's a lot of not necessarily technical reasons, but also social and organizational reasons that you would do this.
Yeah.
So with this opportunity that we had to refresh our UI, we had some additional opportunities within that to choose different technologies. We did end up sticking with Next.js. It would be a pretty drastic move to move away from that. But we did have an opportunity to switch to the new app router, which they've released, I think a couple of years ago, and all of the new features for Next.js are going to the app router. So we had an opportunity to adopt that instead of staying on the pages router. We also, like I mentioned before, we were able to move off of Material UI and adopt a different component library. So we chose ShadCN, which is supported by Vercel, and so has a lot of growth, and it's a little bit lighter weight. And we were also able to switch our unit testing framework from Jest to Vitest. So those are the three major technical components that I'm going to be talking about today. So some of the advantages of moving to these things were like I said, all of the new Next.js features are going to be coming into the app router. They are going to continue to support the pages router, it seems like, indefinitely, which is really good for the company to say, because a lot of people have bigger products than us and they just can't move their entire product to the new framework. But no, if Next.js decides to release any new features, they're not going to be backported into the pages router. So we want to be able to stay on the, yeah.
Oh, I was asking for context. Can you maybe explain to our viewers what the difference is in how the pages router works versus the app router?
Yeah, I think mainly it was a architecture change within Next.js. It was also a chance for them to sort of rewrite everything. And so Next.js uses file-based routing. So where you put the files in your code base directly correlates to the URL paths that you see. And so that's pretty intuitive for people. And so when you say pages router, it's literally a directory in your code base that's called pages, and then you put all of the pages that you want in there. The app router is a new directory called app, and you put your components and your pages in there. There are some also differences with it is adopting more heavily React server components as a first-class technology, which is I'm not going to get into that here, but some of the APIs are the newer APIs for getting things from the server into the client are enabled in the app router, whereas in the pages router, you have to do it in a slightly clunkier way.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. A major advantage of this was one of the downsides of Next.js and the file-based routing is that you can't really easily turn off and on different routes in your application. So in this case, we wanted to incrementally run the refreshed UI alongside of our legacy UI, as opposed to having like a hard fork or branch, because that would create a lot of merge conflicts, and it would be difficult to have two sources of truth for our source control. And so what's nice is that you can actually have new routes defined in the app router and keep your old routes in the pages router, and they're both checked in to get in the same branch, in our main branch. And depending on what route you visit, Next.js knows how to choose the page that you're supposed to be rendering. And so we were able to have both UIs running simultaneously and triggered based on what URL the user was using, and cookies as well. So this was important because on our new UI, we want to add multi-tenancy, like I said, and that means that we need to have like an organization or a username in the URL, similar to how GitHub works. And our previous UI did not have those components, so we would have broken all of those URLs if we had tried to cram our new UI under this pages router. So we could kind of build two UIs at once using the old pages router and the new app router. ShadCN, I had never used Tailwind before. Tailwind is the styling library used by ShadCN. The way that ShadCN works is a little different than MUI, Material UI, where MUI you install an entire library and you import the components, so buttons and checkboxes and inputs. ShadCN takes a different approach. It's designed to be highly customizable. They're basically templates. So you don't install ShadCN. You run a command that copies a template into your code base. And from then you check that into your source control. It's not under node modules. And then you can modify it however you want. So that means that we now own the component. There's no upgrading from I think there was upgrading from Material UI version 4 to version 5 was super painful for people because a lot of the APIs changed. ShadCN doesn't have that problem. If you want to update your component, you can just go into the source and change it.
Got it. But you're sort of tied into using the components in that theme, right? And if you want like a new one, you can just sort of import it into your code.
Yeah, they still ship with the same buttons and inputs, and they're all very high. If you've used Vercel or any modern SaaS product recently, they're almost certainly using ShadCN, very similar style. And from there, you can customize the colors and the theming using Tailwind. And I had never used Tailwind before, but it really feels to me, having done web development for a long time, like using Bootstrap back in the day. My productivity is extremely fast. It's essentially a ton of utility classes that compose really, really well together. So if you want to make a circle, like a status indicator that's a different color, it's like two classes in Tailwind, as opposed to like that would have been a kind of a struggle to do it with something that MUI uses, which is CSS in JS, which is like nicely typed and everything, but you still have to. It's very verbose and it's not easy. The proposed advantages are that you get to reuse CSS, but in reality, you don't really use that much CSS. You're usually styling components kind of depending on the use case. So it's a lot of overhead and boilerplate that is not for a lot of benefit. So personally, I've had high productivity with Tailwind. It's very easy to style all these components to meet our brand. And also we're only importing the components that we need, as opposed to importing a giant library and having to keep that up to date.
Got it. I'm just going to give like a quick recap for folks who just joined. So yeah, my name is Sohan. We are here with Alec. We do this stream every fortnight on the AuthZed YouTube account. So essentially, very recently, we shifted the UI in our dashboard in the AuthZed Dedicated product. Now, AuthZed Dedicated is, it's designed for running authorization at scale for enterprises. So we're talking about some of the design decisions and the things that we did when we shifted the UI over. So we just spoke about moving from the Next.js pages router to app routers in Next.js. And now we're talking about switching from Material UI to ShadCN. And also this is office hours, so feel free to ask any questions you might have about SpiceDB or anything really. Just let us know in the comments. Yeah, Alec, over to you.
Yeah, so the last sort of dev productivity thing that we were able to do, it's not really user facing, was we were able to switch from Jest to Vitest. Jest is a unit testing library for Node.js that was shipped super long ago by Facebook. It's definitely battle tested, but it suffers from a lot of problems. It's notoriously hard to debug. There's not really any good editor integrations. It's kind of a black box. You run it and then you just console log everything that you need to know. Mocking is a little bit clunky. There's a lot of leakage with mocks. And so I looked at Vitest because I wanted a better experience, and I had also not used that before. And what I found was that the developer experience was just so much better. It has a full VS Code integration, so you can set breakpoints, debug your tests. So we have a pretty comprehensive unit test suite, especially for our APIs. We want to make sure that we get those right. And so we're able to mock and debug these tests. Even more recently, I found out that you can run Vitest even faster using parallelism. So there's a feature that was recently shipped into Node.js, which allows you to spin up separate V8 virtual machines using Node.js APIs, and they've added that into Vitest. So you can actually, each test file can run in a separate V8 virtual machine in parallel in a different thread. And that, if I can show, previously, this is just Vitest. Our tests were taking 40 seconds, and with the added parallelism now take 28 seconds.
Nice.
And that's a cold start. So the test has a watch mode, which intelligently watches just the files that you're modifying and reruns the tests on file changes. Just a bunch of good stuff. The Vitest team, the Vite team really is pretty high quality. So I showed at the beginning the legacy UI, and then I'm now going to compare it to our new UI. So let me switch over.
Yeah, and while Alec does that, yeah, if you have any questions, again, feel free to drop it in the chat, or if you just want to say hi, that's all right as well. Love to hear from you. Yeah.
So like I said, this was our material UI design. It got the job done. It has all the buttons that you need. It just doesn't fit our branding and our needs at this point. So we then were able to this is what our refreshed UI looks like. You can tell it's a lot more modern. Most of this, what you're seeing is built-in ShadCN components. Major differences here are you can see that we have this tenancy feature now. So you're able to select the organization and the permission system that you're looking at. Previously, we weren't able to have this tenancy model. You can see our metrics charts. ShadCN ships with a really fantastic opinionated charting library based on now I forget. But
my highly technical feedback here is the colors are really pretty.
Yeah, the colors are great. Our designer did a great job. Yeah. Composing colors. We're still working on it to make sure that we have the right contrast levels when people are really trying to dive into these metrics. And yeah, so what we did was we basically implemented full feature parity with our existing UI. And then now we're free to build out new features as we see fit. And so the legacy UI is deprecated. We did have a button at the top that users could switch back and forth depending on if something was missing or if they found a bug. We've been letting that soak for a couple weeks. And I think now we're getting ready to be confident to fully switch over to the new UI. And then I'll get to make a pull request that deletes like 10,000 lines. And then what should happen is that our Next.js build time should go down a lot. And we'll see a bunch of benefits from not having that code included in our source code.
Nice. Okay. Jimmy coming in clutch with the name of the charting framework that we use, which is Rechart.
Yeah, which is
okay.
tested. They didn't reinvent the wheel there. The Recharts has been around for a long time. I've used it before. They just have an opinionated styling and API on top of it.
Nice. Cool. So
yeah, that's really all
go
I
ahead,
had.
Alec. Yeah. I think the one question that I had, right, which is we of course spoke about getting like the look and feel, the very modern like SaaS product type look, and very in tune with like Vercel and stuff like that. But purely from like a performance point of view, you spoke about how when we moved from Jest to Vitest, we saw like performance improvements in our testing speeds. But from like a UI point of view, how did that work as well?
So we decided to keep the main performance gains in an application like this, where it's pretty much a CRUD app, is with data fetching. And we decided to keep that layer the same. So in our Next.js app, we have an API layer, which then fetches data from other sources. So the front end talks directly to that API layer. We decided to keep that the same, and that's why it's a refresh and not a rewrite. It's a really kind of a facelift of the front end of our application, while keeping our APIs. So we use GraphQL, we keep our APIs the same. And that also had the advantage that we're not introducing a lot of uncertainty by shipping this. We know that we're using the same UI, the same unit tests are running. We didn't want to change too much all at once. And what was nice is that by doing it in this way, by using the app router and incrementally adding these, we were able to reuse the same API endpoints. In the future, we're going to look at using more client-side caching, and especially for those metrics charts that I showed you, because those can be a little bit slow to load. Doing more client-side caching, using WebSockets more aggressively to only fetch when things change. So all of those things will be added to the refreshed UI once the legacy UI is removed.
Awesome. Okay. And I think which you did mention will be fairly soon, right? Where we like do like a pull request with all of the old UI code that just goes out.
Yeah, that'll be pretty fun. Okay. Every engineer should enjoy deleting code.
Yeah. Nice. Sweet. Alec, anything else you wanted to show us, or we can start winding down?
The only other thing I'll mention, I won't really show it, is that it was really easy for, especially in 2024, people expect apps to work on mobile. Even if your primary use case for sort of an infrastructure application like ours isn't that people will be spinning up databases while they're on the train. There's a lot of cases where people are in the car, or there's some issue going on, and they want a read-only view on their phone. And so this was another thing that I didn't really bring up, is that we were able to take this opportunity to make our app more mobile friendly, especially for viewing data, and because it's just an expectation that people have. So it's just a little bit extra polish. I heard a developer use the term like sanding the edges, because users do notice when you put in a little bit extra work, when they load your web app on their phone and it just works. It's just a little bit extra maturity, doing a little bit of the extra mile to make sure that their experience is good.
Nice. And with the frameworks we used with ShadCN and there was no there was not a lot of wrestling required to, sort of change it to like a
No,
well-responsive, right?
Tailwind
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
really beautiful because you basically just prepend the so if you say you have something that's like width 100%, width full, if on mobile devices you want that to be width 50, it's just like MD, which is the medium breakpoint name, colon width half or something. So
Okay.
in that, right next to the classes that you're writing, you can specify the breakpoints and what classes should be triggered only on those breakpoints. And so it was very easy to make it mobile friendly.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, I think we've come to the end of today's office hours, and yeah, this video is going to be on YouTube. So if you want to like look at it at any point of time, feel free to subscribe to our channel. And we do office hours every fortnight at this time. So hit the subscribe button for future sessions as well. Alec, thank you so much for joining in, and Tanner, Jimmy, and everyone else who was viewing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.